She couldn't speak until the day her dog jumped into the well. Welcome to our channel, where real stories come to life in unforgettable ways. If you're here, you're part of something special. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments. We love seeing how far our stories travel. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because tomorrow we'll bring you another heart-touching journey you won't want to miss. One story, one moment, one connection at a time. It was the kind of autumn afternoon that made you believe nothing bad could ever happen. The air was crisp but warm. Sunlight spilled gently through the golden trees, and the breeze carried the scent of pine and dry leaves. In the backyard of a quiet Colorado home, 3-year-old Aubrey Moore giggled softly as she toddled through the grass, her stuffed bunny dangling from one small hand. Her mother, Jessica, stood at the back door, watching with a faint smile. For the first time all week, things felt calm. Jessica had planned to seal off the old well months ago, maybe even years. But like most single mothers juggling work, bills, and raising a child, some things stayed on the to-do list longer than they should. The well had been covered with a thick wooden board, weighed down by bricks and half hidden under ivy. It looked solid, safe even, but sometimes the most dangerous things are the ones that only look safe. "I'll be back in 3 minutes," Jessica muttered as she stepped inside to grab the laundry from the dryer. She pushed open the screen door, turned toward the hallway, and let the door swing shut behind her. Click. It was a soft sound, barely noticeable, but it was the sound that changed everything. Outside, Aubrey had wandered a little closer to the well. The grass was damp with morning dew, and the edge of the wooden cover had loosened just enough. When her tiny foot stepped onto it, the board shifted. There was no loud crash, no scream, just a soft thud, then silence. Inside, Jessica tossed warm clothes into the laundry basket. She barely took 10 steps before heading back toward the door, only to find it wouldn't open. "Seriously?" She sighed, jiggling the handle. It was locked. She rolled her eyes, annoyed but not alarmed. Walking calmly toward the front door, she didn't see what had already happened behind her, because someone had noticed. Someone without a voice. Cooper, the family's 13-year-old Labrador mix, had been lying on the porch with his head on his paws, dozing in the sun. He was older now, slower, with aching joints and fading eyes, but when that muffled thud came from the well, something inside him sparked to life. The instincts of a rescue dog never truly fade. His ears perked, his nose twitched. He stood slowly but with purpose and walked toward the sound. What he smelled was fear, fresh, small, wet. He let out one bark, then another, then faster, louder. Not the playful bark of an old dog looking for attention, but the sharp, urgent cry of a soldier calling for backup. That was the moment Jessica heard him. Her body froze. Her chest tightened. She dropped the laundry and ran. Jessica rounded the corner of the house, heart pounding faster with every step. Cooper's barking had changed. It was sharper now, more insistent, echoing across the backyard like an alarm. Bell! That's when she saw it. The board. It was gone. The well stood open, dark, gaping, silent, and Aubrey was nowhere in sight. "No, no, no," Jessica whispered as her knees buckled. She dropped to the ground beside the well and shouted, "Aubrey!" Her voice cracked as it echoed down the narrow hole. Then faintly she heard it, a cry, small, muffled, but real. Her daughter was down there. Panic surged through her veins, white-hot and paralyzing. No ladder, no rope, no cell service out back. The nearest neighbor was a half-mile away. Jessica looked around, breathing hard, desperate for a solution, anything. Cooper had stopped barking. Now he just stared at her, calm, steady, waiting. That stare, it wasn't random. Jessica recognized it. It was the same look Cooper used to give her father back when he was part of the Mountain Rescue Unit in Blue Ridge. Cooper had trained for years beside him, tracking hikers, navigating danger. He was a working dog once. A hero, he remembered, and so did Jessica. She stood up, forcing her breath to steady. Okay, she whispered. We can do this. Her eyes scanned the yard and landed on an old coil of nylon clothesline hanging near the garden fence. She sprinted to it, hands trembling as she unwrapped it. The rope was worn but strong, maybe 25 feet long. Not enough to pull someone out, but maybe enough to lower someone in. She turned to Cooper, who had followed without hesitation. You remember how to wear this? She asked softly, holding the rope. He didn't bark. He didn't move. He just blinked once. That was enough. Jessica dropped to her knees and looped the rope around his chest, behind his front legs, across his back, just like the old training harness. She made sure the knots were firm, that he could still breathe. Cooper stood perfectly still, patient and ready. Jessica leaned forward, kissed the fur between his eyes, and whispered, "Find her. Bring her back." Cooper turned to the well. No hesitation. No fear. He jumped. Jessica braced herself, wrapping the rope around her hands and digging her feet against a tree root. The line went taut, jerking her forward. Then came a splash, deep and hollow, water and silence. "Cooper," she called. Nothing. Then, a bark, one sharp, certain bark. Jessica's breath caught in her chest. He'd found her. Somewhere below. Her little girl wasn't alone anymore. She had someone. Someone who didn't need words, who didn't need light, who didn't need a reason. He just needed a mission, and this one wasn't over yet. Jessica's hands burned as the rope strained. Against her palms, every muscle in her arms shook. She leaned back with her full weight, trying to keep the line steady. Slow, even. It wasn't just rope anymore. It was hope. The well fought her. The weight tugged hard, heavier than she expected. Her breath came, in gasps as inches of rope slid through her grip, slick and soaked. Then resistance, then momentum. She felt it, something rising. And then a hand, small, trembling, reaching. Jessica lunged forward, grabbed her daughter's arm, and pulled with everything she had. Aubrey broke the surface, drenched, shivering but alive. Jessica collapsed onto the wet grass, clutching her child to her chest. "You're okay. You're safe. I've got you," she whispered again and again, crying into her daughter's soaked hair. Aubrey sobbed into her shoulder, barely able to speak. Her tiny fingers, though, those never let go of the rope. Seconds later, the line shifted again. Jessica sat up. "Cooper," she breathed. The old dog emerged from the darkness below, paws scrambling at the slick stone as Jessica pulled the last length of rope. His body was shaking, soaked to the bone, his breathing shallow. But he had never let go. Not once. Jessica wrapped an arm around him. "You did it," she whispered, burying her face into his fur. "You did the impossible." Cooper didn't bark, didn't move. He just leaned into her, chest rising slow, steady. His work was done. For now. Within 15 minutes, the yard lit up with flashing red lights and the thunder of boots. 2 fire trucks, an ambulance, and a sheriff's cruiser pulled in at once. Paramedics rushed to Jessica, gently taking Aubrey to check her vitals. She was freezing, mildly hypothermic, but had no broken bones. No head trauma. Just shock. "She's stable," one of them said. Then another firefighter called out, "There's water all over the well. Someone must have gone down after her." Jessica turned, still clutching the blanket around herself. She nodded toward Cooper, who now lay on a towel someone had placed beside the porch. "He did," she said softly. "He went in after her. I tied the rope to him. He jumped." For a moment, no one said anything. The air seemed to hold its breath. Then the fire chief knelt beside the dog, removed his helmet, and said with quiet awe, "You're one hell of a soldier." By sunrise, a photo of Cooper, soaked and wrapped in a red blanket, had gone viral. One firefighter had taken it and posted it online with a simple caption. He didn't hesitate. Within 24 hours, the nation knew his name. News anchors called him the dog who pulled her back, the retired K-9 hero, the guardian of the well. People across the country donated in his honor, Animal shelters received gifts. A family from Texas sent him a custom orthopedic bed. Letters poured in from children, drawings, toys, treats, but none of it moved Jessica more than what happened 3 nights later. Aubrey, who hadn't spoken a single word in her life, crawled beside Cooper and whispered gently into his ear, "Boop." Her first word, not perfect, but powerful, and meant for the one who pulled her from the silence. They say heroes fade quietly, but Cooper never faded. He just slowed. Winter crept into the Colorado foothills earlier than usual that year. Snow kissed the porch railings, and the old pine tree by the fence stood guard over the yard like it always had. Inside the house, everything had changed. The energy, the rhythm, the silence. Aubrey, now 4, had found her voice. It wasn't constant or polished, but every word came with meaning. Blanket, bunny, boop. And every morning her first word was still his name. "Coop," she'd whisper, patting his head as he rested at the foot of her bed. He followed her everywhere, slow, deliberate steps, like an aging shadow that refused to drift too far. He no longer barked at passing trucks, but if Aubrey cried, even softly, he would stir and inch closer, resting his chin on her knee until she quieted again. His job wasn't over. It had simply changed. One night, Jessica found her daughter kneeling beside the window with a flashlight in her hand. Aubrey was pointing the beam upward, tracing the stars. She whispered into the light, "Today I helped Caden at school. He fell. I pulled him back." Jessica stood in the doorway, heart tight in her chest. She never told Aubrey what to say. These weren't practiced lines. They were moments. A girl learning how to give back what had once been given to her. Then, quietly, in early spring, a letter came. It was from a National Search and Rescue Foundation. They had heard Cooper's story. The rope, the well, the silence, and the bark that changed everything. And they had one question. "Would you let us name our new K9 Rescue and Recovery Center after him?" Jessica didn't hesitate. "Yes," she replied. "But only if it's also a place where retired dogs are honored. Where they're still seen, even if they're old, even if they've already served." The board approved it unanimously. The grand opening wasn't flashy. It didn't need to be. A crisp banner stretched across the new building's entryway. The Cooper Center for K9 Rescue and Recovery. Dozens of retired service dogs attended, each walking beside the humans they once protected. Children lined the path with handmade signs. Aubrey, holding Cooper's leash in one hand, clutched a drawing in the other. A tall pine tree, a well, and a rope stretching from the sky. At the bottom, a dog with wings. When the mayor called them up to the microphone, Aubrey didn't say much. She didn't need to. She simply stepped forward and whispered, "He saved me. I speak now." The crowd went still. No applause, just quiet tears, wiped silently. That night, back home, Jessica sat beside Cooper on the porch. He hadn't eaten much. His breathing had slowed. His eyes stayed closed longer between each blink. But when she brushed his fur and whispered, "You're tired, huh?" His tail tapped. Just once. She didn't wake Aubrey when it happened. She didn't have to. At 2:14 a.m., the little girl stirred, climbed down from her bed, and curled beside him. She wrapped her arms around the old dog's chest and whispered, "Sleep now, Captain. I've got the rope." Cooper took one final breath and let go. They buried Cooper beneath the tall pine tree by the back fence, the one that caught the first light of every sunrise. Jessica wrapped him in the soft blanket from Aubrey's bed. Beside him, they placed his harness, his worn service badge, and a drawing Aubrey had made just days before. A night sky, a long rope hanging down from the stars, and at the very end of it, a dog pulling, just like he always had. The town held a small memorial. It wasn't grand, but it was full. Neighbors, firefighters, rescue teams, and families who had never met Cooper, but had whispered his name at bedtime. People brought flowers, photos, and handmade cards. And standing quietly beside the mayor, Aubrey helped unveil a plaque. It read, To K9 Cooper, who pulled without command, served without expectation, and watched over us long after his duty was done. That night, Aubrey sat on the back porch with her flashlight. She pointed it at the stars like she always did and whispered, "If you see someone fall, pull again." Then she smiled. "I'll be listening." Spring arrived gently that year. Snow melted from the eaves, and wildflowers returned to the garden. But the first tree to bloom, weeks before the others, was the pine above Cooper's grave. Aubrey was the first to notice. "He's growing," she said, tugging at Jessica's sleeve one morning. Jessica blinked. "What do you mean?" Aubrey pointed. "Cooper's growing into the tree now, so he can still watch from higher." Jessica didn't answer. She just looked up at the blossoms and nodded. Life moved forward, but it didn't move on. Cooper wasn't a memory. He was a presence. Aubrey still spoke to him each night, kneeling at her windowsill, shining her flashlight skyward like a message beam. "Today I helped Lily tie her shoes," she whispered. "She was scared, but I told her it's okay to fall." Jessica stood quietly in the doorway. Cooper hadn't just taught Aubrey to speak. He'd taught her something even greater: how to listen. That summer, Jessica and Aubrey were invited to the official ribbon cutting for the Cooper Center. It was nestled at the edge of a forest preserve, not a fancy building, but a sacred one. Inside were rooms for training new rescue dogs, healing spaces for retired K9s, and classrooms where children learned how to connect with animals not through commands, but through empathy. At the ceremony, Aubrey stood beside a young German shepherd, named Rook, recently rescued from a shelter and just beginning his training. She knelt beside him, signed one simple word with her hands: "Safe." He sat down beside her, leaned into her leg, and stayed. The trainer blinked in disbelief. Jessica smiled. "That's what Cooper did too," she said. "He listened first." On the drive home, Aubrey stared out the window as the hills rolled. "Bye." Then she whispered, "Mommy?" "Yes, sweetheart. Do you think ropes can go both ways?" Jessica tilted her head. "What do you mean?" Aubrey smiled softly. "I think sometimes we pull them, and sometimes they pull us." Jessica reached for her daughter's hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. "Yes," she said. "That's exactly how it works. If this story touched your heart the way it touched ours, we'd love to hear from you. Tell us. Where are you watching? From, and what part of Cooper and Aubrey's journey stayed with you the most? Was it the moment he leapt into the well without hesitation? Or the quiet night when she whispered, "Sleep now, Captain. I've got the rope." Sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones told without words. Just loyalty, love, and quiet bravery. Drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts, memories of a pet who changed your life, or simply a word of gratitude for the silent heroes we often overlook. And if you've ever believed that bonds can last beyond a lifetime, tell us why. Your comment might be the message someone else needed to read today. We read every single one, and your voice matters here. Because in this space we honor the listeners, the lifters, the loyal hearts who pull others back from the dark. And don't forget to subscribe, because tomorrow we share another story that will remind you why even the quietest voices can leave the loudest echoes.